Dr. Mark Jangizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about masks and how masks cover parts of the body that have the greatest number of sensory endings. That is, animals have evolved to have all of their sensory endings, nearly all of them, disproportionately, not all, actually all, but disproportionate amounts of our sensory endings and perceptual devices are all in the head. Why? Because when animals move, whether you're a fish or a bird like Pistachio over there, or a mammal, when you move forward, you want the parts in the front to have all the sensory endings, because that's the stuff that's going to run into things in the world first. So you need to have your sensory endings there. And so that's what we end up calling it, the head. So you want the things up front. In fact, this is, as I talked about in an earlier video, a moment video, is why we have the brain in the head. It seems like a really bad place to put it. Why not put it in your chest where it's safe and sound? But it turns out brains and nervous systems want to minimize the amount of wire to be able to do what they need to do, because wire is very costly. And since most of your sensory endings are up there in the head, then if you move the head anywhere farther away from the brain, there's so much wire that has to go up there, disproportionately up there. It's just cheapest to have the brain right up there, so it has these really short wiring lengths to get to all of the perceptual devices up here in the head. So most of our sensory apparatus and equipment is up here. Right? And so if you decide to place some big thing like this in the exact part of the body that for millions of years has been designed to have most of the sensory endings and picking up the world, and you're just going to willy-nilly put a big mask covering all of this space, and you expect that you're not going to be messing with all of those sensory devices, right? Now, my very first Science Moment video, number 52 or 53, in this endless COVID hysteria season, I think I'm 148 or 149 now, the very first video in this moment series was talking about how face masks block your lower visual field. And that's the parts of your visual field which are so important for locomotive behavior. You get the visual motor feedback of the world is what allows you to be such a dynamically acrobatic and brilliant athlete, as we all are, just moving around the world. You block that, you mess that up, because our brain relies on the optic flow of things in the world, seeing it move by and then reacting accordingly. So even though it doesn't block your eyes, it is blocking your eyes, right? It's blocking your lower visual field. And you may I don't want to go through that whole video. I ask you to go back to 52, moment number 52 to do it. But as a short answer, the reason that we put, one way to sort of quickly see it is that the reason that athletes sometimes put these black charcoal on their eyes is because otherwise the sun reflects onto your cheeks and back up into your eyes. But that means your cheeks are in your visual field, right? They're actually in your visual field. They're in your lower far peripheral field. You're not consciously aware of them. And your feet are very often in your visual field. Even your lips are very often in your visual field. Your nose is. Most of these things you don't consciously realize. So your visual perception is blocked by a mask who's not even blocking your eyes. It's not like this, but obviously, no, it's counterintuitive, but it's blocking important parts of your visual field, which enhances and augments falls, which are a serious issue. 600,000 people worldwide die each year of falls. 3 million are hospitalized from that. So who knows how many more falls there have been in the last year and a half. Now, it doesn't cover your ears either, face masks, but as we've talked about, I don't know, maybe 10 or so videos ago, there are several converging reasons for why, when you have a face mask, despite them not covering your ears, they're modifying and affecting your ability to hear others. In addition, of course, when other people are talking, it's harder to hear them, but I'm not even talking about that. Your ability to hear is being messed up by the fact that you've placed this gigantic thing over your face and nose, your mouth and nose, even though it's not obviously blocking your ears. And of course, so we've hit eyes, we've hit sight and sound, and then smell. Now, of course, once you've covered this, of course, your smell, I don't understand, olfaction very well, but it's been designed for hundreds of millions of years with thousands of dimensions of capabilities of different things in the chemical features in the environment that mean certain kinds of things instinctually to us. We're not usually consciously able to grasp what it means to us. But these things are designed to flow in and be breathed in certain kinds of ways. And when you've got this stuff here, and most of the flow is going around the gaps, it's messing it up. I don't know exactly how it's messing up, but your olfaction sense, your ability to smell, is being handicapped, and there's no question that it's being handicapped by virtue of that. And you say, well, smell's not that important to me. No, none of us realize how important smell is because it's all unconscious behavior. We go through life modifying our behavior on the basis of lots of things like emotional expressions, one big thing. We're seeing them constantly, we react intuitively. Same thing for smells. These things are all well below the surface. And so you can't just go on the basis of your intuitions and say, no, smells aren't that important to me. No, they are. Right? So we've got sight and sound and smell, all of them affected by putting a face mask there. And then we have taste, which is, of course, it's blocked altogether. You've got to take it off in order to eat anything. But in natural life, sometimes just walking around, you might just, in the previous video, you might just say, oh, wonder what that tastes like. Just quickly doing, just very quick. What does it taste like? What's that? Let me try. These kinds of things with a face mask, you have to modulate your behavior. But of course, eating generally, you have to take it off. But now the last thing that the last sense is touch. Now, of course, it's blocking your ability to sense anything in this entire region, all of this region. Now, we get some of if it's windy or you're moving outside, you can actually feel the small bits of wind here, sometimes from the movement of other people, sometimes from your self-movement. You're able to sense aspects of the wind, aspects of just the environment around you. We have senses like that. And our lips are not just any old sense, any old skin. They're special skin with special powers in some sense. They're both graspers, but they also have more like fingertips. They're hypersensitive to be able to sense things in the world. These are entirely covered up. So you're choosing to place something over basically half of the parts of the face, which are exactly the most important parts, sensory-wise, of all animals for hundreds of millions of years. And the idea that one would think, even setting cardiovascular issues aside and emotional expressions aside, just on the basis of perception of all of these different modalities, when you cover up almost half of the face, you're messing with all of our perceptions. And that was your science moment.